And welcome back to another video. Now that the car's running, we've got to sort out a few things in the engine bay before it's time to pull the engine out. Let's have a look at what I have to do. Okay, first things first, I was test fitting the alternator in and it doesn't fit because of the battery tray. Just going to test fit that, test the wiring, all that kind of stuff, but it hits here, so the battery tray has to come out, and of course it's welded in, so I'm going to have to drill out some spot welds to get that off. And it has seen better days, but it's not too bad. So my plan is unpick that, and then that can go on that side of the car for the battery, but you still have to remove the airbox fittings and stuff like that, so we'll worry about that later. But first I want to get this off. Also, I've got to do a bit of wiring so I don't have, starting, fuel pump. Want to wire those in properly, and then we'll see how we go on other things. But today, or at this stage, I'm working on the battery tray. Well, after almost 2 hours of drilling out spot welds and making this into Swiss cheese, it's out. Now, I did go through a couple of times, so we'll fix them up and add our mounts in for our airbox. But you remember the original power steering used to be here, and that used to leak a bit, and it's got under the tray, and it's quite juicy, so that needs a good clean up, and then we're good to go. Whether I can use this again or not is another question, because it's so many holes. Probably better to just get another one and whack it over there. So not sure about that. We'll see what happens. But the thing's out. That's the main thing. And yeah, clean that up. Now that the battery tray is off, it's time to test fit the alternator. We'll get that on and see how that looks. Here we go. Well, I've already lost one bolt. What have I done with it? Well, that was clever. How did you lose a bolt? I don't know. Didn't pay attention where I was putting it. Where did I put it? Forgot the top bolt. But what did I do with the bottom bolt? I know what it looks like, but I don't know where it is. Right, that goes in like that, and doesn't want to go because of all the wires, but that will go in there, and if we pushed that through, it should be able to hold it like that. Now, the arduous task of finding where I put the other bolts. Okay, I found the missing bolt. I'll show you where it was once I've got it in, and you won't believe how stupid the position was. Right, would you like to see where I had the missing bolt? I looked up, down, all around, and all along it was in that hole there. So it just looked like a blended in bolt. So I remember I put it there for safekeeping and it was safe. All right, that's on. Next step, we go to the Statesman, is I need to harvest the 1, 2, 3 pins for the airbox, and then we will copy the pattern into this side, put them in, and clean that up. Or we'll worry about fixing those holes when everything's out, because I don't want to be welding and stuff around there. So we'll get that mounted and find out where that wants to mount, and then that will be the airbox in. So I have managed to get all the nuts off, all those bolts that are for the airbox, the 3 of them there. But don't be fooled, they are not what they seem. Let me explain. Okay, so those bolts that go for the airbox look something like this. And this bottom half here is what screws into the body, and it's a welded on nut underneath. So don't do what I did and make your first one look like that. So I put a vice grip on it and I thought I'll just turn it and it'll twist out. No, that breaks off the 2 halves, which are rubber, and then it's no good to you. So what I did was, of course, sprayed it with a bit of WD-40, but I also just got a screwdriver and a hammer and tapped, because the base is steel, and just tapped it and then unthreaded it that way, and that's how I got them out. But as you can see, they're pretty shagged now. This one was pretty perished anyway, so that's not going to be any good. And then number 3 is split in half, so they're no good. All right, I do have now the base of the airbox sitting in where I want it, and you can see the 3 holes where it's going to mount. I'm going to drill through those, and I'm going to make up with some bolts, and I'll get some rubber underneath, because it's got to have some sort of a little rubber cushion as per the original. So I won't drill those holes until I find some bolts and nuts that I can use, and hopefully I can find some of those. I'm sure I've got something lying around, but I will not do that until I've found the bolts. And then I will, once the bolt's through, I'll get some sort of rubber cushioning around it before the the nut goes on top, so it's not vibration heaven in there. Yeah, so when I find some nuts and bolts, I'll be sure to let you know. Rightio, where was I up to? That's right, installing the airbox. So that position there I've marked with a yellow paint pen, and that hole there kind of works out for a hole that I did when I was trying to get that battery tray out, so that's worked out pretty good. But before I went ahead, I went and put the headlight in to make sure it's all going to fit. So I've got the top 2 bolts in. Now I'm glad I did this, because the first place where I marked it out, the light wouldn't go in. The back of the light here was hitting here. So I repositioned that, made sure the lid and everything goes on. So that is all in the right place now. So all is left to do is take that out and drill where those yellow dots are. and that hole there is pretty much where the third hole is going to be. So I'll get them drilled and show you what I'm going to do for mountings. So bolts are in and rubber mounts have been made. So what I've done is I just have a generic rubber kit from an auto store with different size rubbers, that kind of stuff. And what I've done is I've put a couple onto the bolts. So what I've done is just got bolts through with nuts to hold them in place so they don't fall through when you're trying to put the thing together before you get the nuts on. I've got this rubber size here, which is very similar to the original size, but it has that indentation there, so that goes on first with the indentation down, so it goes over the top of the nut. And then I've got another one the same with indentation down, and then when it's on, it's flat and will give a nice flat surface when the base goes on. And that pretty much works out to about the same height as what the original is there. So we're all good there. So all that's left to do now is get the base on and fit the thing together. So we line it up with our holes and our bolts that are just loosely in there at the moment because they're not tight. So I'm going to do those up by hand, and then we'll start to put it all back together and see how it fits. So I'm just going to do these up by hand because we're only test fitting. And then we can see what the finished product is going to look like when I install the other half, along with a very, very dirty filter. But that's all service items that we can change later on. So that can go in like that and is pretty much finger tight. As you can see, I have fingers worth of gap between that snorkel and the headlight. And let's put the really dirty filter in. Now, the only issue that I have so far is this clip here. It is a bit too close to the ignition module, but this is not going to be coming on and off all the time. This is only going to be, you know, a serviceable item, so I should be able to manage with it there without drilling more holes. If I can get that lid to go in its slot, and then we can get that clip on. Like that, and we just snap him on the top like that. Put the rest down, rest of the clips on. Bingo bango. Just move this more on. Done. Look at that, hey? One completely installed airbox. We do have the grill to go in yet, but the snorkel for the airbox is straight through that gap there, so hopefully we can get enough air. And that's done. Obviously, we will finish it off nicely when everything comes back out, but the install has done well. That's the gap I've got from the clip to the ignition module. There is a gap underneath on there for the alternator, so there's plenty of room there. There's like a cutout, so it's designed to be like that anyway. But need to work out what we're going to do with the battery. Need to cut off the old airbox clamps for that and get that sitting nicely. We'll leave that headlight in for a bit, eh? So, yes, pretty happy with that. Let's see what the next thing will bring. All right, new day, more work done. As you can see, I have that headlight in because I'm working out where the battery is going to go, and I also have the power steering pump on because there's no point yanking all this out without the accessories on and not knowing how things are going to fit, and then modifying things to find out when you go to put it all back together it doesn't work. So that area there is quite small. First things that have to be done is 1, 2, 3 old airbox clamps have to go. So I need to sort out this before I can sort out the wiring. So we just hide that away, and I have my old battery tray, which is huge. Now it doesn't go in that way because the hole down hits the light, so we don't want that. So what I'm thinking is, well, I was originally thinking have it like this, which was opposite, you know, the way it was on there, but you're going to hit the power steering pump, so that's not going to work. So it's going to have to go in this corner here. How high? I don't know. I'll probably lop off a corner here so it fits, because this tray is huge. The battery, you know, is got, you know, 1.5 inches each side of that. That's massive. So I don't need all of that. So even if I lop that off there, the battery could still probably sit here and still fit in. But we don't want to be too close to the pump because obviously that's tight, but not tight as you want it for running a car. That's just mock-up tight. So it's get rid of these mounts, cut that there, and then see how we go fitment wise. Obviously the further I can get it this way, the better it's going to be clearance wise here. Now if you get a battery and you stick it here, like obviously hitting that lip there, but see, it's pretty close there, so probably needs to go that way. Probably want a final resting place about there, I reckon. So it's going to have to be some modification work in here. So that there, we're going to have to go probably down and then across so it's flat. All while living with that bolt there, which is a guard bracket. So I don't think I'm going to get all of that modification done now. That's all going to happen engine out. But if I can work with being inside that rail there for final fitment, we're laughing. And then I want to get all this wiring and then run it around here, kind of hidden under the top of the guard, and then we'll find a place for all those relays and what have you. So that's where I'm up to. And that's probably going to take a while to do because there's a lot of mucking around in that. I'll show you how much of the battery tray the battery actually uses. So that's fully up the other side. So we've got probably 2 inches extra on there. So if I cut that across there, that's not going to make too much of an issue, and that'll get rid of a couple of my holes anyway. So yeah, having said that, looking at that battery section now, that's probably going to take a long time, so I'm going to end this video here, and you will see all that shenanigans in a future video. Thanks for watching. Ciao, ciao.